Brian White is here again. And
Rumor has it.
and Brian, according to some people, and not everybody, but according to many, many people, the V14, version 14 of FSD and its application to Robotaxi and the eventual, turning loose of the fleet of Robotaxis in real numbers is the most important thing on the table right now at Tesla. I could argue that the Optimus humanoid robot is about 5 times more important, but who's counting? Um, we
Well, the difference is they have to build the robots still, but they've already built the cars.
There you go. There will be a difference. All right. So the setup on this one, Brian, is that we have had the version 14 drop last week, 14.1 actually to be technical. And then a few days later, after multiple complaints about hard braking and a little jitteriness, there was a quick update with 14.1.1. I asked Grok this morning to please go in and analyze 100% of every single commentary on X and then build me a list of the top things that people were saying about it. Now, I already did that on the morning show, so I'm not going to go back through the 12 things that came up on that show. However, suffice it to say, kind of all in, this version seems like it's ready for, showtime. It's ready. I mean, they're talking about it being able to go through drive-ins. They're talking about it making great stops at curbs and going into parking lots and handling parking lots no problem, even with gates, going all the way to the top of multi-level parking structures, finding its way out of those parking. I mean, just the number of positive commentaries about how it's handling edge cases and everything else. It just seems like it's ready.
Hmm. I would say that I'm not impressed that it can get out of a parking structure. I've only failed to do that a few times, but they were really confusing ones. No, I joke. I'm usually able to get out, uh, but I am still in one right now.
I see.
No, there are a lot of these solutions that it's come up with are things that we knew it would need to do. And people say, well, it still can't decide where to drop me off. Right, because it didn't ask you where to drop you off. It wasn't coded in yet. That's the easiest part of the equation. That just had to be done. And it appears that it is done. The reports I've seen says if you tell it to park on the street, if you tell it to park in a parking spot or drop me off at the door, it does that. We needed that. We've got it. To me, the test of how well is 14.1.1 able to handle Robotaxi is, are we going to see an expansion of vehicles in Austin without an expansion of remote operators?
Oh, okay.
Because that will tell you the objective now isn't to make it work. It works. People have been there to Texas, to San Francisco. They have ridden around in these. The question is, now all we need to do is reduce the operator ratio from 1 to 1 or 3 to 1 down to, 10, 20, 100. And if one person can operate 100 taxis safely, that's solved. Then they will, at that point, I imagine, begin rolling them far and wide. If 100 people can handle 10,000 cars, you've got a winner. What that
Right.
means for your and my car,
Yeah.
I don't know how they pay those people, even 1% of their wage with what we're paying them. That doesn't seem reasonable, but maybe it is.
Yeah, and maybe it's 0.1%. The number of, I guess it would all come down to the number of calls per car per hour. You're in my car, unless we've got it in the Robotaxi network, is only being driven, what is it, 20 hours a week, or I forget what Elon has told me so many times. I should know that number, but
But that number may swell if we have this capacity. It's like when they had the unlimited golden tickets that they would sell for airlines. You'd pay two, three, $400,000 one time, and now you can fly anywhere you want, anytime you want. And they found that people who used to fly 3, 4 times a month were now flying 5 times a week, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you've got something that good, why not send it to get the kids at school twice a day, every day, 5 days a week? Run a lot more errands that way. I don't know. Make it the car for the entire extended family.
Right,
It's a possibility. I don't know. We don't know.
right.
14.1.1 is a big step closer. I will reserve judgment. I've seen complaints that I will not, that I cannot address myself. I don't have it. And I've seen huge compliments to it, praise for it, that I am also not able to validate. I believe the videos I'm seeing, which are showing some big steps forward, but still a few gaps remaining.
Okay, so you've been kind of by yourself on this, even though I think you're right. So you've been by yourself and right. That's a good combination
Mm.
about this idea of how many individuals are in headquarters paying attention. We now know there's also a requirement in Texas, which I'm gathering that Tesla would have done anyway, which is to have these emergency response units or rapid response units, so that if the car does end up in the ditch or flat tire, or somebody has a heart attack or whatever, and they need to be dealt with, they will have these rapid response units, which is another cost, which I'm assuming Elon has always had in the back of his mind. But this idea of the ratio is a definite expense issue, as well as a something that I'm sure Tesla's keeping in mind. But in terms of a rollout, assuming that it really it works as well as it sounds like it is, because none of the complaints are about safety. I don't think I don't think I've seen anybody say they had to do a takeover yet.
Hmm.
I don't think I've
I
seen.
don't I don't recall. I don't recall. I haven't been following it as closely.
Well,
I've been under the impression that it would be rolling out more quickly to users more generally. And I've been checking every day. I did get the Tron update, but no new FSD for Brian just yet.
yeah. So again, the Grok analysis, I don't believe there was any, the Grok did not seem to mention any single person that had it's certainly not a safety intervention. And and as far as the rest of the rollout, I think for some reason they were a little surprised by the amount of these rapid stops. These and the whole Mars catalog, whole Mars and others were basically talking about the fact that it looks like it's just so capable of seeing, basically behind its head, around the corner. It just has such a capability that it's just, and especially apparently it's doing this around pedestrians and bicycles, that it's just being ultra careful and just not very smooth in dealing with these stops.
So whole Mars catalog lives in the Bay Area and tests it there. Past versions, up until version 12 probably, FSD was overfit for the Bay Area. That's where they did all their testing. That's where it performed the best. Now it seems to be a little more universal. So if 14 is working well there, and the Bay Area, for those who've never been, has every road challenge imaginable. It's got steep hills, it's got narrow roads, it's got pedestrians, it's got street parking. If there's something that could stress you out in city driving, it exists in that area. So if it's performing well there, around all those considerations, people walking dogs and riding bikes and doors opening at random times, that gives me confidence that it'll work fantastically in places that are a little more spaced out and mellow.
So then the next question becomes, because obviously, even though I think maybe even the biggest skeptics I've seen say, they're convinced now that there will be a Tesla Robotaxi network by 2027. So that if you roll that back, maybe there's 80, I don't know what the number, take it out of the air, maybe 70% of the people that are paying attention would say, well, it might not be this year, but it'll certainly be sometime in 2026. Then you got the optimists like me who are saying, I think it should be next Thursday. And so then in order to adjudicate between those various versions of the future, and in any one of those three cases, we still get rich. But I'm looking to get rich sooner rather than later because I'm really old.
Oh, are you? We didn't know.
I've been hiding it well. I never talk about it, never mention it.
It was a single source rumor. I wasn't ready to report it.
Well, I'm not as old as Larry. That's why Larry calls me young man. Yeah. I think there's a 2-year age gap. Anyway, let's go back. So what we want to do is, I think most people would like it to happen as soon as possible. I'm trying to figure out, people keep saying things like, well, you can't do unsupervised because there's going to be insurance issues. Well, there's going to be insurance issues whenever. You got regulators. You got to overcome the regulations in order to do any of these things. Well, yeah, that's always true. I'm only thinking about the capability of the vehicle. Once the vehicle's capable,
everything else falls into place. Absolutely agree. Look, if Tesla was the only company doing this, if they were blazing the trail and there was no one behind them, I would hear your complaints, Mr. Critic, and give them weight. But Waymo's already doing it. Cruise was doing it. Zoox is doing it. This is not a radical experiment that one company is doing alone. People say, well, who's even going to insure it? I don't know. Ask Waymo. Those people, whoever insures theirs. And it's possible that Waymo is self-insuring. If that's the case, I mean, they have deep enough pockets, they could do that. I have it on good authority. Tesla has an insurance company. They could underwrite it themselves. They wouldn't probably, if it's that risky, they wouldn't have outside funds interested in doing that specific underwrite, but that's fine. They could do it themselves. If it's not safer than others, if it's racking up accidents, maybe it shouldn't be insured. Maybe it's not ready. All of this hinges on if the technology works as expected. If it doesn't, none of this conversation means anything. Because, that's like saying if space travel in the 1700s. No if, there is none. There won't be for a long time. Doesn't matter. This isn't the 1700s. This is 90 days before the Wright brothers flew for the first time, and the New York Times ran with the headline, "Man will not fly for 1 million to 10 million years." So I agree with you. The skeptics' perspective has changed. I've seen people saying, look, Tesla's not going to be able to solve this until at least 2030. I go, so you agree they will solve it?
Yeah.
We just disagree on the timeline. Once it's solved forever. You only have to solve it once. From there, you just make it better. And at that point, what's the value of the company? Yeah. Do you think someone's going to come from the shadows and leapfrog them? I don't. We know what it's taken Tesla to get this far. We know what it's taken Waymo. Waymo has very good engineers, brilliant people who've been working on this continuously for 15 years. And they're still making what a human would call rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
So if billions of dollars and over a decade is what it takes, I don't see a new player emerging from the shadows to overtake everybody. Tesla will be one of, if not the company to solve it first. If you believe that, regardless of what year it's going to happen, that's something that should weigh into your calculus when determining whether or not you're interested in investing in a company like this.
And I also made a claim this morning about NHTSA. So we've had, of course, a previous administration where NHTSA was the enemy. We were all very angry with NHTSA because we felt like they were being inappropriately rude to Tesla and not giving them a fair shake. Then we all got excited. The stock went to 488 because the new administration, everybody thought, oh, well, now it'll just be a slam dunk. All we got to do is, Elon was so heavily responsible for the victory that it'll be paybacks, and the president will go stand in the offices at NHTSA and make sure that it's approved for every county in the country. And I take a middle ground on that. And my middle ground is everybody knows what the boss wants. The president of a company does not have to go to every desk in the company and say, this is how the president thinks. This is what he's going to give you a raise for. Now, they may be wrong. Sometimes people do, have a wrong idea about what the owner or the president or even their manager wants, but they are trying to please their managers. For the most part, most people are not stupid enough to try to displease somebody who's paying their bills. So I'm going to suggest that, kind of like, I don't know, what was that name of that? The Iran-Contra affair with the guns during Reagan? Ollie North and all these, it was like, well, we knew what Reagan wanted. We never had to say it out loud. We knew.
Okay.
We knew what the game plan was. And so at least we believed that's what the game plan was. And so we were trying to please the boss. So having said all that, does that make sense to you that NHTSA at this point probably gets it, that they're supposed to be as kind as they can, and maybe even kinder than that, in order to make this happen?
I don't see any evidence that would suggest that. It wasn't the NHTSA under the previous administration that was hostile to Tesla. It was NHTSA ever, always, since forever, because it is a captured regulatory body. These are people from inside the industry who control it. And they are, I don't know anyone who would argue that, is it Misty Cummings? What's her name?
Yeah, she's gone now, right? I think she's
Is she?
Oh yeah, no, they have a new person. Yeah.
Okay, well, she was everything that was wrong with regulatory capture. She was on the board of directors for a LiDAR company, saying that only LiDAR is the solution, when her company was incapable of building a solution. Honey, please. So I think the problem is that it's not a priority. Running the agency effectively is not a priority. Moving toward the future in the regulatory environment surrounding automobiles, not a priority. I was telling you before our Monday show, that I just had a chance to visit Stone Ridge. Stone Ridge is a company that makes a whole bunch of parts for cars, seat control modules and sensors and things like that. But they also make a digital mirror system for semi-trucks. A wonderful, clever system, really well engineered. All the software's in-house, checks all the boxes. They're working with 6 of the biggest manufacturers to install them from the factory day one. But NHTSA has a requirement that says you cannot sell a Class 8 truck without glass mirrors. You have to have them. But there's already a law that says you are allowed to drive them on the road. It's perfectly legal to use a digital mirror system on a semi. NHTSA won't update it to say, to match that requirement. So some of these companies sell the truck configured in a way where, as soon as you take delivery, the first thing you do is unbolt the mirror and chuck it in the trash. Who is this helping? You could fix this with the swipe of a pen, and they don't. That's not because they're malicious to Freightliner and Kenworth and all these big companies. It's because they are incompetent to a degree that defies understanding.
All right. Well, there you go. That kind of then ruins my last question. My last question.
All right.
My last question was, if I walk into a regulatory body in Texas or California or Missouri or wherever else, and I walk or to NHTSA, and I walk in and I say, look, here's our records. Here that they all are. And they're confirmed by this. If I'm walking into Texas, here's what California's records are. If I'm vice versa. Here's my records from Europe. Here's all my records. And it's 10 times safer than a car.
So the question was, is that enough? And the answer is it would be if they knew how to read. I don't think they do. I don't think their job is to accomplish anything. Hey, the tallest blade of grass is the first one to get cut, right? There are no tall blades of grass at NHTSA. If they can't, these mirrorless, glassless digital mirrors have been approved in Europe since 2017, and we can't get them approved here, regardless of who's the president. We've had three different, you know, presidents during that time. Tours the same guy twice, but there's the office has changed hands, and still nothing gets done. I think this regulatory body is, I mean, we've seen some of the genuinely dumb rules that they put in place that don't make sense. I don't know how to write the policy. What if you ask me to sit down and write what should the government policy be? What should NHTSA's policy be on autonomous vehicles with or without steering wheels? I don't know how I would write that. But what I would do is reach out to the people who do, get their feedback, run it by others who are smart and in that space, in that industry. And then I would present it to NHTSA, but they can't read. So
I think somebody had a policy at one point. I mean, Texas has ruined it by doing this really nasty bill. But the policy was you have to be insured and you have to provide us with your numbers.
mm. What's Texas's new thing?
They put a whole bill together. The legislature passed a bill. I guess the Governor Abbott signed it, which I don't understand at all. But I mean, they're the ones that require the urgent response vehicle. They require X number of miles of this and that. I mean, I don't know the details of
Mm,
it, but this was a bill that they put out, I think, just before June 22nd.
mm.
But it took effect September 1, I think, or maybe it was sooner. But anyway, Tesla got their units out before the bill took effect. So they were kind of grandfathered to some extent. Uh,
So I'm going to push back and say Texas has had the most aggressive forward moving policies regarding autonomy. They have a framework in place. It's not a set of regulations, it's a set of permissions, which is why we see there are so many companies that are testing autonomous systems in Texas. Aurora Trucking already has driverless trucks
right,
on the road.
right.
Um, and adding a requirement for rapid response, I don't think is crazy.
No,
Um, I don't know what the other requirements are. And I'd be inclined to think that these would be bigger barriers for new entrants than anyone else. And at the same time, that the state legislatures got all the time in the world to handle this. You can't just allow direct sales of a company that's spending billions of dollars in your state and bringing all kinds of
right.
surrounding industries to it. I
Oh,
don't know that Texas is quite as friendly to Tesla
it
and
is-
Elon
this
as
is-
many have made them out to be. And at least Greg Abbott can read. I'll give him that. So he is not an idiot. NHTSA people not as convinced.
Not as convinced. All right. Well, we'll see what happens on that over time. All right. I think that gets us up to date. I am very optimistic that that Elon's statement that we would be in half the population of the country, that we would be in several cities, and that we would have a good number of cars on the road and unsupervised driving in some regions by the end of the year. I'm still based on 14.1.1. I'm going, Elon. I think we're on to something.
And I'll take the opposite side and say the fact that 14.1 came out to nobody, to a handful of people, and has stopped at right there and not gone wider, tells me we may not be on track.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, folks. You got it here first. We never disagree, Brian and I. Actually, I think uh, I'm trying to think. Do I have any of my co-hosts who always agree with me? Well, that wouldn't be any fun. I'd have to fire them if they didn't disagree.
It would get boring and you wouldn't need us there if we're just going to agree.
That's right. All right,
So I'm
Brian,
going to disagree with you on that.
you're going to disagree with me
That's being difficult.
I got nothing else. That's it. That's all I got. It's been great talking to you.